What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. If you're a subscriber, welcome back. If you're new to the channel, my name is John. I ride scooters and I make YouTube videos every day. I'm making a video today because I had this question consistently over time. A lot of you have sent me messages in the past on not how to ride 4 pegs, but how the mechanics. How do you get 4 pegs on your scooter? Even though some of you might understand how to do it and it's really simple, I guess some people have a problem, an issue of doing so. So I want to explain how it's done, and really all you need is just an Allen key. Sometimes you need a like a ratchet. So we're just gonna explain how it's done first. So I have 2 scooters. I have one scooter that I ride with 4 pegs. It's my flatland scooter. And then I have another scooter where I ride 2 pegs in the front. So this also could help anybody that's riding dual pegs, like 2 in the front or 2 in the back. This can definitely apply to you. So what you do is you buy a pair of pegs. The pegs usually come in pairs and with axles about maybe 3 inches long. A lot of times you're gonna need a longer axle. That's like the main thing. That's the answer before I even finish this video. Make sure you have a long axle where it can go through the peg, through the fork, wheel and everything, and out the other side, and give yourself enough room and threading to get the other peg on and tight. So what I'll do is I'm gonna take my front wheel off and show you, because I have 2 pegs in the front right here. And I'm gonna show you what I do to get these on. So my pegs only use an Allen key because the nut is inside the peg already. But most pegs, you're gonna need to have a hex wrench. The socket wrench allows the tool to go inside the peg, tighten the nut, because you can't really get an Allen key inside. If you're using an axle that has a double Allen key, that's actually better. It's just the problem with those, they're hollow, so they're not as strong. So if you're standing on them and you're grinding on them, they're more likely to break. So make sure you have a solid axle. Okay, so you see I have the pegs in the front. I have 2 pegs, and I also put spacers because I like my pegs really long to have more foot room for my feet. But you just gotta make sure it's not too long where it's gonna hit your, like the front of the deck or the head tube. Some decks have very little room, some decks have a lot of room. So having a lot of room definitely helps with making your pegs longer. My pegs are about 2.5 inches long, plus a little spacer, and my axle is 5 inches long. So that gives me plenty of room and plenty of threading. A lot of times you'll get an axle that's real short and it only threads on like a little bit. Be careful with that, because if it only threads on a little bit, you're more likely to bend and ruin your peg and axle. You want to make sure that there's a lot of threading going on into the peg. It's just safer, like anything. Anytime you're tightening something, like if you have SES bolts, clamp bolts, you want to make sure that the bolt goes all the way through past the threading. So there you go. This is my kit. And this allows me to have 2 pegs in the front with spacers. And remember, you just gotta have clearance. So I'm gonna do is put this back. You can see the axle's already in there like that. Oh, I forgot the spacer. I gotta put the spacer. You don't have to use spacers, but I like them because you have more room for your feet. The thing about it too, the longer the peg, the longer the axle, the longer, everything is, the more likely you are to bend your axle. So anytime you're riding pegs, especially 4 pegs, you're more likely to bend the axle riding the pegs than to not ride any pegs at all. So just be careful with that. Make sure you have spare axles. I always have spare axles on me all the time, especially the 5-inch ones. 5 inch is really good. Some people ride district decks, and when you ride a district deck, the back dropouts are so wide that you need a really, really long axle. Almost 5.5 inches, I'm pretty sure. So just let me know if you have any problems and you're trying to put 4 pegs on, or even 2 pegs, and it's still not long enough. You know, send me a DM of your problem. I guess like if the axle is too long, I can really see it, because sometimes I don't really know until I see it. So if you can show me the problem, or like if your peg is hitting when you're doing bar spins, like I gotta see what the problem is, and if you can send me a video of like you explaining it, I can help you out. But hopefully this video helps you out more than enough where you can put more pegs on, because the more pegs you have on, the more tricks. So mine's cool because the nut is pressed in to one side on the peg, so all I gotta do is hold the peg itself. But a lot of times you're gonna need another Allen key if you're riding like a double Allen key axle, or a wrench, socket wrench, and you wanna go in there. Some pegs don't have enough room to fit the socket wrench in there, so you gotta be careful. We've used a flathead screwdriver. Just make sure that when you put the flathead screwdriver in there to jam it so the nut doesn't spin, that it's really snug. You don't want the nut moving a little bit. You know, the flathead has to be like super jammed in there. That way the nut stays nice and tight, because if the nut wants to move, you're gonna end up rounding the nut out, and you're gonna end up stripping it, like not be able to take it out. So you gotta be careful with that. You don't want the nut moving. You want everything to go in nice and smooth. And remember, a lot of threading the entire time. Always, always. Also remember, anytime you run pegs, because they act as like washers. Anytime you put washers on something, you're able to tighten it a little more. When you put, that's freaking horses. Anytime you put pegs or washers, you're able to torque it a lot more, which compresses the fork and the dropouts. My flatland scooter, because I ride 2 pegs in the back, the dropouts always squeeze in a little more, so the wheel's a little tougher to get out. So just be careful with that. Don't think that you're ruining the deck. The deck's designed to clamp the wheel, just like clamps, forks, all that. Just be careful and don't use too many washers or anything. Just make sure that everything's nice and tight. Don't over tighten it. Make sure you tighten it where your wheel spins freely and everything's good from there. So this is a quick video, quick rundown of how to use 4 pegs. A lot of you send me messages saying, John, not how do you ride 4 pegs, because that just takes practice, or just whatever tricks you want to do, because you can grind with them, you can do flatland, you can stand, do whatever you want on them. But the mechanics behind it, basically you need 2 pegs, obviously. Make sure that when you put the pegs on the side of the fork, that it clears the deck, or if you're putting it in the back, that you don't have 2 square dropouts. A lot of times when you have square dropouts, you can't put the pegs. Especially if you figure out a way to do that, you're gonna end up messing yourself up, because since, like, I know a lot of you ride like 5 wide decks. When you do so and you put a peg, and then you go, let's say if you run like a peg like this, like 2.5 inches, and you have a 5 wide deck, if you go to turn a little bit, just lean a little bit, you're gonna like scrape out. So if you do want to ride pegs and you're riding a really wide deck, just get bigger wheels. I ride 120s because I'm higher off the ground, which gives me more clearance to turn. You know, if it's like this, if I'm lower to the ground, when I go to carve and turn, the peg's gonna hit the floor. Just be careful with that, especially running longer pegs, that it definitely will change the way you ride, especially when you fakie. When you ride fakie, you can't really lean fakie, you kinda gotta throw your arms side to side just to get a long fakie. But that's how you do it. Just make sure you have a pair of pegs, make sure you have a long axle. A lot of the pegs come with axles, but they're always smaller because they're designed to put 1 peg on one side. Anytime you buy pegs with the axles, make sure you purchase another axle that is long enough. I always try to do a 5-inch axle if you're doing double. If the axle is too long, you can always cut it. Just make sure the axle is long enough. But that's how you do it. I always ride 2 pegs in the front, and on my flatland scooter I ride 2 pegs in the back. My other scooter that I have for regular park tricks and street, it's 2 in the front. The peg isn't as big, but I do ride 2 in the front, and I do use a 5-inch axle as well. So hopefully you guys learn how to do this. Let me know in the comments below if you do ride pegs or what tricks you do, just give me some feedback if this helps, because this is something that I've gotten over 30-40 messages, which is enough to make a video. So if I get enough messages, I'll make a video for you guys. If you have questions, let me know. I hope this helped. Thanks again for watching. Do some peg tricks. The more pegs, the more tricks. See you guys tomorrow. Later.